I'm going to start with Samantha Bourne. She writes to us saying this: I struggle with anger and losing self-control with my kids, especially when they disobey or disrespect me. What do you recommend I do in order to overcome this and show my kids discipline through love instead of anger? Oh, Samantha. Oh, I remember the nights crying about this. I remember the times where I failed and I responded in anger and feeling like such a loser, especially because I had grown up with a violently abusive father who I thought was my biological father. And it turned out when I was 17 and a half, I found out that he wasn't. Being molested from the time I was 3 till I was 16, being dragged across the floor by my hair, being kicked across the room by a giant size 16 shoe, being, grabbed by the throat, shoved up against walls to be cursed at. These things majorly had an issue. I had major issues with anger. I really, really did. And distrust and disrespect and dishonor. And so this is all I can say is what helped me. First of all, I am so grateful for all my business training and everything that I actually taught in business, because what I learned in business is what I brought into the home. Business, sadly, was more of a parent for me than the kind of parenting that I had witnessed as a kid. The kind of leadership I saw in business, I figured, why not use that same kind of leadership in the home? Because again, the leadership that I saw growing up was not the kind of leadership that I wanted to duplicate, or at least from my perspective, right? You have a very skewed perspective as a kid growing up in a home. As I've gotten older, I realized there were some things that were different than what I had perceived as a young person. But here's one thing that I learned in business, believe it or not. I learned about forgiveness. Yes, in business. I didn't learn it in church. I learned it in business. Yes, by a millionaire who talked about it and talked about forgiveness and the importance of it, and that I needed to forgive people from my past. And that if I hadn't forgiven people from my past, I would take all that anger and rage and discontent and distrust and striving and contention, I'd bring that into my business life. Well, at the time, I was a greedy business person who just wanted to make millions of dollars. And so I was willing to do anything to succeed financially. And when he said that forgiveness was an important key, it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do that if it makes me money. Turned out it did make me money. But then when I started having babies, this is something I found to be so powerful, because what happens is that when our kids disobey repeatedly, right? Because they're learning, okay? So they're messing up every day, especially when they're really little, right? And then even when they get older, what I found was that if I did not have a clean heart every day as a mom, I was then taking on what they messed up yesterday, and I was using that against them. So I found myself as a mother being a record keeper of wrong. And when you keep records of wrongs, you build gigantic walls of anger and fits of rage even. You build gigantic walls of depression. You build gigantic walls of anxiety, knowing that they're going to screw up again. You build up huge walls of fear, the fear of failing as a mom again, as a parent again. So this very practice that I learned in business, forgiveness, like the forgiveness of my employees who didn't meet a deadline or forgot to do something that was really important or mistreated a client, and or the forgiveness of past business relationships, vendors or partners who totally stole from me. Why? Because I was an idiot. That's why. And I didn't protect myself. I didn't know to do things like I should have. And so forgiveness was a part of my daily routine in business, and I brought that into the home. That even with my little toddlers who were going to poop and pee their pants again, or they're going to write on the walls or whatever, they were going to disobey. Why? Because disobeying is part of learning to obey. It's part of the training and development of our character. That I needed to extend that same kind of forgiveness to my kids. And then that is what helped me to start with a clean slate and a clean heart, clean hands every day, that I wasn't chalking up and building walls of records of wrongs, but that we started fresh every day. Fresh, that what happened yesterday was not brought into today. So what happened today was a fresh offense, that with the most best that I could, that if I had a clean heart, That means that I wasn't responding in absolute anger, especially a 10 angry response to a number 2 offense on a scale of an offense of someone doing something wrong, a scale of 1 to 10. My 2, the 2 offense, the 2 that my kid disobeyed in, that rather than responding with a 10 reaction and screaming, I found myself with a little bit more mercy and grace because I started with a clean heart.